in the 6th part of this series, Mental Mayhem, and the journey that we've been on together is all about discovering how do we overcome the thoughts that wreak havoc within all of us. And in this series, we've been following along the storyline of this guy named Elijah. His entire story is found in the Old Testament, specifically in the book of 1 Kings. And you see, Elijah was this mountain man that got tapped on the shoulder, and he becomes a prophet, which is a big title to literally say he would go anywhere God told him to go, and he would say everything God told him to say. And along this story, Elijah has experienced some mountaintop moments with God. I mean, incredible moments. Those moments that just kind of like stop your heart, those moments that widen your eyes, those moments that you're just like, oh, wow. And he just didn't have one of those or two of those. I mean, he had countless moments where God just showed up and showed off. And last week in part 5, we get to have a front row seat of watching Elijah, the spiritual leader, this prophet, this spokesperson of God, completely come undone. I mean, it started with a letter from the evil queen Jezebel that said, hey, I'm gonna come and kill you like I've done the other prophets. I'm now coming after you, Elijah. By this time tomorrow, you're going to die. And what does Elijah do? He runs for his life. He escapes. Then what does Elijah do? He isolates. He dismisses his servant. This would have been one of his trusted companions and one of his trusted friends. That person that knew almost everything about Elijah. He just sends him away. And Elijah continues on by himself. And then we get to actually hear the thoughts that had been going on in his mind. All of a sudden, we get to hear them out loud as he continues to ruminate. And here's what's true for Elijah. And it's true for me. And it's true for you. I know it is. We do all three of these things. We escape, we isolate, we ruminate. We escape, we isolate, we ruminate. Maybe you're coming out of a season of doing all three. Maybe you're in this season right now, or maybe you're walking along with a friend, a loved one that is in this cycle right now. But we've all been there before. But the first action wasn't the escaping. The first action, or the next action, wasn't the isolating. What was the initial action that sent Elijah into escape mode? That sent Elijah into the isolation mode? That caused him to become undone? It's the ruminating. It started there. Elijah's thoughts generated his emotions, that generated his actions, his behaviors. What caused Elijah to become undone was all of those fear-inducing thoughts. It was all of those thoughts tied to tomorrow. Not just the message from the evil queen Jezebel. That's what pushed him over the edge. But it was countless hours of him ruminating over and over and over and over again. And finally, the tipping point was the message from Jezebel that said, by this time tomorrow, you're going to die. And that's what shoved him over the edge. But it was the ruminating. Remember, 95% of all of our thoughts are repetitive, and 80% of our thoughts are negative. And that's why. If we took the Apostle Paul's words and actually implemented his words daily, minutely, by the second in our lives, it would start to change everything. When Paul said, take every thought captive and make every thought obedient to Christ, Paul understood how important our thought life is. Why? Because when we ruminate, it will lead to us becoming undone. But where we ended part 5 last week, the last thought I encouraged all of you with is a thought that I want to bring back in and just rest in it for a moment. You see, you can't outrun God. Even as Elijah was ruminating, even as Elijah was escaping, even as Elijah was isolating, we're reminded as we read this story that God was with him. God fed him. God touched him. He was present. God gave him a safe space to sleep. God strengthened him. And God said, hey, you're going to continue with me. You see, in seasons where we are undone, it's so easy to feel like God is distant. In seasons where we're undone, it's so easy to think that God has walked away from us. In seasons when we are undone, it's so easy to think that God is disappointed, that God is ashamed of us, that God is looking down on us, that God can't believe that we are acting this way. And all of a sudden, we try to push God away. And this is another reminder that guess what? You can't outrun God. That God is with us. And that God is for us. And God is on the journey with us no matter what we feel. And remember, what we feel isn't always real. And our feelings all the time deceive us. And I just want you to hold on to the truth. This is truth. That even though you might feel that God is, we're yet reminded another time, in another moment in the Bible, that God is like, no, I'm for you. I'm with you. Even in the dark valleys, even in the seasons of being undone. And so Elijah gets up and he continues to travel south another 40 days. And we're told that he comes to the mountain of God. Now, this mountain of God is named a couple other names in the Old Testament. It's called the mountain of God. It's also called Mount Horeb. And that word Horeb literally means desert. So it could be called the desert mountain or the mountain in the desert. But the most famous name for the mountain of God or Mount Horeb is Mount Sinai. And if you've ever read the story of the 10 Commandments, that's Mount Sinai. It was a moment where God created his covenant with his people, the 12 tribes that become Israel, his covenant. One of the most important actions in the entire Bible that connects with you and me is God's covenant. What God desires to bring to the relationship and what he has asked us to bring to the relationship with him. His covenant. That God has done everything he's promised to do. He's like, I've been faithful to the relationship. And it's us that's not faithful to his covenant. But yet God continues to say, I desire to have a relationship with you. Covenant is so important. It's on Mount Sinai that he creates this covenant with his people, the Israelites, 12 tribes that become a nation. It's on Mount Sinai that God gives Moses his 10 commandments. It's like, hey, here's a framework for you to live by. He goes, because I love you, because I desire to be in covenant relationship with you, here's a framework to live by. Mount Sinai. And God, some 500 years later, leads Elijah back to the same place, the same mountain. And he leads him to a cave where Elijah lays his weary head down and sleeps some more. And then we're told that the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Now, up to this point, God had spoken to Elijah through angels, and that word angel literally just means messenger, that God kept on sending a messenger. But here we're just told that the word of the Lord came to him. We're not sure what this was. Maybe it was another angel. Maybe it was just a voice that Elijah heard, or maybe it was a thought that entered into Elijah's soul, and he knew that it was God's voice. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah. And this is a question that God asked Elijah. Hey, Elijah, what are you doing here? Now, this was not a destination question. This wasn't a location question. I mean, God was God was asking a faith question. God was asking a heart condition question. God was trying to get underneath a proverbial glacier, iceberg, and get down to the root of what was going on within Elijah. He's like, what are you doing here, Elijah? And how does Elijah respond? How does Elijah answer? Remember, he is completely undone. And he says this to God. He goes, hey, God, I've been very zealous for you. That phrase, very zealous, literally means enthusiastically and exclusively devoted. Think about the gravity of that statement. Hey, God, I've been enthusiastic for you. I've been passionate for you. And exclusively, hey, God, all these other people have been worshiping Baal and Asherah, not me. I've been exclusively following you. Hey, God, my belief, my faith has been connected only to you. Hey, God, I've given you 110%. I've given you everything. I've been very zealous for you. This is what I've done, God. For years now, God. This has been my commitment to you. But the Israelites, they've rejected your covenant. Now remember the setting's so important. It's the mountain of God, Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, where God established his covenant with the 12 tribes that became Israel, the nation. It's the same location. And Elijah goes, by the way, God, your people, the Israelites, they've rejected your covenant. What Elijah was saying was, hey, God, your people they've rejected you. I mean, that's what the line means, rejected your covenant. They rejected God. And not only have they rejected God, guess what? Elijah just proves his point. He goes, by the way, God, how do I know that they've rejected your covenant? How do I know that they've rejected you? Well, I've seen they've torn down your altars and put your prophets to death with the sword. Hey, God, your altars, they tore them down and established altars to Baal, the storm god, and Asherah, the fertility goddess. I've seen them with my own eyes. Hey, God, they didn't want to worship you. They wanted to worship Baal and Asherah. And oh, by the way, God, your spokespeople, people like me that you've called to speak your word, yeah, they've been killing the prophets. They've been killing your messengers. And then Elijah goes, I'm the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. Do you hear the ruminating? He's like, I'm the only one left. And now Jezebel is coming after me. And how do you think God responds? Elijah, he just directly lobbed some verbal grenades at God. How does God respond? How does God respond to Elijah's ruminating? I love what God does. We're told the Lord God said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for I'm about ready to pass by. He completely ignores Elijah. He doesn't engage with it. He doesn't ask follow-up questions. He doesn't try to dismantle all of his undoneness. He doesn't try to deflect all of his ruminating. He doesn't try to tear it apart. He doesn't try to bring truth into it because some of it just wasn't true. God doesn't do any of it. He just moves right past it. It's like, hey, Elijah, I want you to see something. Go stand in my presence. And Elijah does. And we're told that a mighty wind kicked up. I mean, this wind was so strong that it tore apart parts of the mountain. Could you imagine Elijah in this moment? A wind that strong. Huge boulders are falling down the side of the mountain, over his head, on each side of him. I mean, this wind had to be terrifying. But God was not in the wind. Then all of a sudden, the ground underneath him started to shake, a great earthquake. And I don't know if you've ever experienced an earthquake before. I've experienced a couple earthquakes. I tell you, it's one of the scariest feelings because you can feel the earth shake underneath you, like your entire foundation and what you're used to standing on is moving. It is frightening. And we're told that God was not in the earthquake. And then fire erupts all around Elijah. Fire, something that just 40 days previously, Elijah had witnessed God rain down fire from the skies to burn up the entire altar, including all the water in the trench around the altar. But now this fire felt a little different as the fire was all around Elijah. And we're told that God was not in the fire. And you think about those three, the wind, the earthquake, and the fire. These were, well, in the Old Testament, they were precursors to God showing up. But not this time. That's why we're told each time that God wasn't in the wind. God wasn't in the earthquake. God wasn't in the fire. And then all of a sudden, there was a gentle whisper. A gentle voice. You see, don't overlook or don't look for God's miraculous power and overlook his gentle whisper. I think this is what God was trying to remind Elijah of. And I think this is what we need to be reminded of. It's so easy to look for God's miraculous power. Remember, Elijah had experienced some incredible mountaintop moments. I mean, he just came from watching fire come down from the sky and burning up the altar, the bull, the wood, the rocks, the ground, the water, all of it. He had witnessed God's miraculous power as God brought rain. He had witnessed God's miraculous power as he outran Ahab's chariot. He had experienced God's miraculous power by the flour and the oil being extended so that he and the widow and her son could eat. He had experienced God's miraculous power when God raised the boy from the dead. He had experienced God's miraculous power over and over again. And God was just reminding him, hey, Elijah. So easy to look for all of the amazing, powerful mountaintop moments. But don't overlook my whisper. And maybe this is what you need to hold on to right now. Because you're looking for that miraculous moment. And in all reality, God is whispering to you. And we're told that when Elijah heard it, the whisper, he pulled his cloak over his face because he knew it was God, and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then the voice said to him, What's God going to say now? In a gentle whisper. Hey, Elijah, what are you doing here? It's the same thing. It's the same question. It's the same wording. God just repeats himself. Elijah had to be so annoyed at this point. I mean, he just saw fire and the wind and the earthquake, and then all of a sudden he realized he's in the presence of God, standing on the mountain of God, the same place God spoke to Moses. I mean, this had to be spiritually overwhelming. And then God asks him the same question yet again. So how does Elijah respond? I think in the back of Elijah's mind, He's like, okay, two can play the game. I can play this game, God, because he responds the same way. He goes, I've been very zealous for you, God. Enthusiastically, exclusively, devoted, all in, 100% for you, God. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, tore down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I think, again, this is not in the text, it's not in the story here, but what I think is this time, I think Elijah just really stressed the word your. Your. Hey, God, they rejected your covenant. I didn't. Your people, your Israelites, it was your covenant. I didn't come up with the idea of covenant. I didn't come up with the idea of this relationship thing. You did that 500 years ago. You did that right there. This was your idea, God. And oh, by the way, these Israelites, these people of yours, they tore down your altars. The altars to worship you, they tore them down. I didn't do that. I didn't have any part of it. It's your altar tied to your covenant. And oh, by the way, God, hey, they put your prophets. By the way, God, I'm a prophet, not because I wanted to be, but because you came to my home, tapped me on the shoulder, and told me I had to. So I said yes. Hey, God, this is all on your shoulders. And I am the only one left. And now they are trying to kill me too. And how does God respond this time? To all of Elijah's undoneness, to all of Elijah's ruminating. I love this. God goes, hey, Elijah, go back the way you came and go to the desert of Damascus. Hey, Elijah, retrace your steps. I'm sending you back north where King Ahab and Queen Jezebel is. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go back. Hey, Elijah, face your fear. See, what God understood, what God knows, is true for Elijah, it's true for you, and it's true for me. We try to outrun our fear. We try to outrun our anxiety. It's why we escape. It's why we isolate. It's why we ruminate. But guess what? You follow you wherever you go. I follow me wherever I go. Elijah followed himself. And God knew that he had to turn and go back and face his fear. And it was so much greater than just Jezebel and her note. Remember, the what are you doing here wasn't a location, wasn't a destination question. It was a faith question. It was a relationship between Elijah and God question. And not only did God call Elijah to go back, he gave him 3 very specific actions. One was in international affairs, to go to Syria and anoint Hazael as the new king. In national affairs, he said, hey, King Ahab is done. I want you to go and anoint Jehu as the new king of the northern kingdom. And in spiritual affairs, God goes, hey, Elijah, I want you to go find Elisha. He's going to be a prophet of mine. And then God says something to dismantle all of Elijah's ruminating. Not only the thought that he's the only prophet left, and God's like, hey, by the way, Elijah, I'm in control of all of this. The world might look like it's out of control, but I'm in control. And then God says to Elijah, hey, Elijah, by the way, just so you know, when you're saying all my people, all the Israelites rejected me, all the Israelites tore down the altars, all the Israelites killed the prophets, I just want you to know, there's 7,000 that haven't. And that's not, don't hold on to the specific number 7,000. This was a number of completeness. He goes, there's a large number of people that have not turned their back on me, that have not rejected my covenant, that have not worshiped Baal and Asherah. Hey, Elijah, you've been trying to convince yourself that you are the only one, and all of Israel has done that. It's just not true. It's not true. You're ruminating, Elijah, is not true. So, what should we hold on to for this part of the story? The first truth that I would encourage all of us to hold on to is this: that God will quietly wait until you quiet yourself. I think Elijah needed the 40 days. He needed to sleep. He needed to eat. He needed to go wandering. He needed to quiet himself to get into a season where he could actually hear God's voice. I think Elijah had kind of convinced himself that the only way that he could hear God's voice, the only way he would know that God was present is in the mountaintop, the massive moments. It's why God brought the wind and the earthquake and the fire to say to Elijah, no, Elijah. I'm in the whisper as well. And you haven't been listening for my whisper. Maybe you just need to find a space to quiet yourself. I don't know what that looks like practically. But don't convince yourself you don't have time. This is not a time issue. This is how you are going to allocate your time issue. Don't say, well, I got young kids, Chris, you don't understand. I work a lot, Chris, you don't understand. Hey, Chris, you don't understand my schedule. It's not a schedule. It's not a time. It's not a kid. It's not a, I'm just calling that out. How do you need to create space just to quiet yourself so that you can actually hear God's whisper? What do you need to do? Only you can do this. I just want you to know God has something He wants to say to you. And especially when we're in seasons where it feels like everything's crumbling around us, it's even more important that we quiet ourselves. And maybe you've just gotten off a mountaintop moment with God and you're like, that was amazing. You know what my challenge is for you? Go find a space and be quiet. Listen for His whisper. And the second kind of insight that we can't miss here, it's one of the reasons I love this story about Elijah, is that when you are undone, when I am undone, when Elijah is undone, guess what? God is not done. God's just not done. Because God can use us in seasons where we feel spiritually amazing. In those mountaintop spiritual moments where we just feel like we're so close to God and we're so energized and we're so passionate and we're so zealous and we're so enthusiastically, exclusively devoted. Those seasons where we're just all in, we're like, God, you and me, we can do anything. Yeah, God can use us in those seasons. And in the seasons when we're completely undone, you know what God says? I'm not done with you. Because here's what I've experienced. In my undone seasons where I've seen God not be done with me, I have to rely on His whisper. I have to rely on His strength. I have to rely on His guidance. I have to rely on Him. God's not done with you. God's not done with you. God is not done with you. Let's pray. Lord, I'm grateful that in our undone seasons, that your promise, your truth, is that you're not done with us. Lord, may we lean into your whisper. May we lean into your whisper to hear your voice. Because you have something to say to every one of us. In your name I pray. Amen.